Hey, and welcome back. Today we're taking a look at an electronic drum set that was sent out to me by the folks at Fesley Music. They reached out a while back and asked if I would have any interest in trying out either of their electric kits, and as somebody who really has spent most of my time behind the drums on acoustic kits, I was excited to try out an entry-level kit of this level because frankly, it's a setup that a number of my students have to use for one reason or another. I've played some of the higher-end electric kits in churches or theater gigs, but I really haven't owned one or set one up for that matter, so this seems like a great chance to fill that gap. So after a little back and forth with Fesley, they agreed to send me out their FED1000 drum kit, which sells new for $4.99. Within a couple days, the kit was delivered in a single box, and I was able to grab it and bring it downstairs to dig inside and see what was all here. So first thing is a nice owner's manual. Let's take a look. So this is pretty thorough, and I kind of expected that. I haven't set up a ton of electronic drum sets, so I'm pretty sure I might need to reference this. And then again, since I haven't worked with a ton of electric kits, managing the brain and all the functions, I'm sure a lot of the answers to the questions I have will be in here. So everything seems to be packaged individually, so let's just start here. Okay, pretty typical. Nothing too nice. I'll probably just end up using my own throne because I'm a bigger guy. Hi-hat control. Now I know this uses an actual hi-hat pedal, so this might be the mechanism that sits on the stand. Yeah, it looks like the base or seat to the actual hi-hat rubber pad. Cymbal pad. This is a pretty nice pad. On some of the cheaper electric kits I've seen, they only have like a triangular portion of the disc that is actually rubber that you could hit, and the rest of it would just be plastic. That sounds awful, but this is rubber all the way around, so it's nicer than I expected. But this one is like I was talking about, yeah, with just a portion of it cut out to play on. Says this one's the ride, and this one doesn't have a label, but I'm guessing this might be the hi-hat. Next up, we've got a kick pedal. And to my surprise, the build quality on this actually seems pretty nice. It doesn't have a solid base or anything, but the kind of arms that hold up the pedal mechanism seem pretty durable, and the footboard seems pretty well built as well. And of course, we've got a beater here. This one seems to be dual-sided, has a kind of hard plastic or rubber side, and then the felt side. And again, I don't have a lot of experience with electronic drums, but from what I have seen and been told, avoid using the felt side as it kind of deteriorates the pad quicker. All right, now we're talking. This is nice. I love this rubber trim on the rim so that you can play rim shots and simulate that without being loud. And it actually does look like there's a real triple flange tube under here. Got a mesh head, which feels pretty good, and you can adjust the tension on it to make it more realistically feeling to your specific needs. A couple boxes of accessories. I'm gonna wait to open these up until I actually need to use these because I'm sure it's just a ton of small pieces. All right, here's the kick drum pad or the kick tower. This must be like a vertical support to hold it in place. And another part of that base. And then here's the kick pad. This, actually that's pretty nice. My biggest complaint with the older electronic drum sets that I've seen is those hard rubber surfaces really wear on your hands quickly. And this has some nice cushion and give to it, a lot like a real bass drum head would. So I'm excited to see how this feels. This is pretty much what I expected. Not a lot of cushion, not anything too crazy. They need to make it cost effective somewhere. All right, and next up we've got the hi-hat stand. I'm not a big fan of those cheap, almost like piano damper style foot pedals on electric kits that just plug into a hi-hat pad. This one actually uses a legit hi-hat stand and actually has a pad that moves like a real hi-hat stand would. Next up, we've got drum pads. I'm guessing these are the toms. These are definitely a little bit different than the snare drum pads or the snare pad. It does not have real drum rims and that rubber sleeve for the rim, but it does have the mesh head and it does look to be tunable so you can adjust the feel of it. There's only 2 of those in here, so I'm hoping there's one more somewhere. All right, here's our sound module, or the brain. At first glance, we have USB, power, what I assume are a couple headphone ports. Oh, 1 audio in, and then 2 different headphone ports, a 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch, depending if you're using headphones or going directly into an amp. And one nice thing about this kit is it does come with a pair of headphones, which it's just nice when you buy something to have everything you need to get going. Okay, and then here we've got a box with another drum pad and cymbal pad, hopefully. So we've got the 3rd tom pad and 2 more cymbal pads. Another nice thing about this kit is it doesn't just come with the 1 ride, crash, and hats. It comes with an extra cymbal, so more options there. All right, and finally, we've got the drum stand or rack that holds everything up. All right, so there's a lot going on in here. We've got cymbal stands, another cymbal stand, pair of drumsticks, which I'm not sure how nice these actually are, but again, just nice of them to include it. But go ahead and spend 15 bucks and get yourself a nice pair of sticks. And the rest of this just seems to be tubing for the rack components. Luckily, everything's labeled with letters E, D, I, so I'm sure that'll help when I reference in the manual on putting all this together to make sure I'm doing it right. But yeah, let's go ahead and get this set up. When it comes to assembly, there's definitely a learning curve. Like I mentioned before, I don't have tons of experience with setting up electric kits, but typically you have a plastic frame that holds up and supports almost all of the drum pads, cymbal pads, as well as the brain. One thing I really appreciated through this process is that all of the connection points secured in place with a drum key, avoiding the need to use something like an Allen wrench. I started with getting the vertical leg supports together, but before going onto the horizontal bars, you do need to make sure that you thread on the pads and cymbal stand mounts because they don't have the ability to clamp around the bar, but through. Given the size of the rack in both height and width, you're a bit limited in terms of positioning these pads, but you do have a small range to dial in a comfortable setup. After I had the rack mostly assembled with all the pads and the module threaded on, I could move on to some of the standalone pieces of this set. The drum throne was just 3 pieces and goes together with just a few simple attachments. The hi-hat stand will feel familiar to anybody who has previously set up a hi-hat stand for an acoustic kit, up until the point of adding the hi-hat controller and cymbal pad. And the final piece, the kick tower and pedal, was also quite easy to assemble, with just a few screws to secure the pad onto 2 metal plates that build up the stand for it. With everything now assembled and in rough place, I went ahead and wired up all the pads to the drum module. This is a tedious process, and at this stage, I didn't waste too much time keeping everything neat and tidy, but before I recorded the demos, I did go back and do some cable management with the included Velcro straps that came along with this set. After some time getting acclimated to this kit, I did bring it over into my studio to record a demo with some of the sounds and showcase the range of this set. This module has 30 different kits programmed inside of it, but in the spirit of time, I chose just a few of my favorites to highlight here. Since this brain includes a USB port for MIDI use, I went ahead and connected the module directly into my computer in order to experiment with triggering some stock drum kits from my preferred DAW, Logic Pro X. So now that I've had some time to sit with this kit for a bit, let me break down some of my thoughts. Since 99% of my experience comes from playing acoustic kits, I have to break down my opinions into two categories. 1, opinions on playing electric kits in general, and 2, opinions pertaining specifically to this Fesley FED1000. In a broad view, electric drums are a great option for people who don't have the space where they can play on full volume acoustic kits, but there's certainly a trade-off. The response on E-kits is still nothing close to that of acoustic kits, and as a drummer who plays nuanced styles, I really have to adapt my technique and expectations when sitting behind an electric kit. I find this especially challenging with the cymbals, and mostly on the hi-hat. I don't think this is a critique specifically on Fesley, but it has to be the hardest instrument to emulate well, and to me, it's just a challenge to adapt to while playing. One other broad frustration I have with E-kits is the size and positioning of the drums. The pads are typically a lot smaller than the instruments they represent, and typically, the frames that support them are only so big and have limited range for setups. Most of the electric kits I've been able to play on are a bit short for me even at their highest positions. I think for a younger drummer, this wouldn't be a big deal, but as somebody who's over 6 feet tall, I was restricted to how high I could sit and not feel like I'm playing down to everything. When it comes to this kit specifically, I was really impressed with some of the features included in this price point. Both the hi-hat and kick pedals are really nice, and honestly, I think I could use these with my acoustic drums and still enjoy them. It really does help contribute to a more realistic feel while playing, and I'm impressed by the build quality and function of them. Additionally, I think the playing surface on most of the pads was realistic and enjoyable to use. This was most noticeable on the snare pad and hi-hat pad, but the toms also performed well, and I understand there's only so much you can do with cymbal pads. When it comes to sound, I'll say that once I swapped out the included headphones for my nicer studio headphones, I noticed a big improvement on the sound quality, but still, I wish they could have invested in making these drums sound a bit better. It's not the end of the world, because with the USB connectivity, you can download alternate kit sounds and simply use the brain as an interface to trigger higher quality sounds direct from your computer. Lastly, when it comes to the module of the set, I do have a couple thoughts which I think are worth mentioning. 1, I wish the screen displaying the settings could elaborate on the titles with more than just a number. There's a description of each numbered kit in the manual, but if there was some text on screen, that would save me time from guessing what each kit is before I use it. 2, to my knowledge, there's no way to adjust the volume of each voice within a kit, meaning if a specific component of the set is too loud or quiet, the only way to change the volume is with your touch. I found this most problematic on the cymbals, being too loud in comparison to the drums, making it hard for me to have balance while playing. 3, there's a few connection points on the bottom of the module that I wished were placed on the rear of it, because it would create less traffic of cables in the area where you might have your hi-hat or snare positioned. And finally, 4, the play-along songs built into the kit already have drum tracks embedded in them. I found it challenging to enjoy playing along with both the pre-recorded drums and my own playing, competing within the same track. This does seem like it could be fixed really easily by just going through those tracks and muting the drums, so hopefully Fesley can improve on that for the future. With all this said, I do still believe this kit provides a nice value for somebody in a different situation than me. When I think about my younger lesson students who are just starting out and may have volume constraints at home or a limited budget, I think an e-kit can be a great solution. I ended up leaving this kit in my studio for a week to let a number of students try it, and I think overall they enjoyed it and had fun. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. If you're interested in picking up one of these kits for yourself, I'll have an affiliate link down below, which is a great way to support my channel at no extra cost added to you. If you have any experience with Fesley, I'd love to hear about it, so leave a comment down below. Lastly, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel to stay up to date on all of my future video releases. And until next time, thanks.